This might be a challenging conversation. You and I should have a talk. And when I say you and I'm actually not expressly speaking to shop owners, but rather shop patrons. As we get ready to roll into another spring season and shops across the country ramp up, there's just a couple of points that I had in mind that I believe are relevant for those planning on visiting a bike shop this season. Now, I think we all know that the general consensus in the industry today is that most people who walk into a bike shop feel alienated by the owner and the employees within that bike shop. And I want to talk today a little bit about why you have that feeling when you go in. For a lot of people, bike shops are ironically a source of intimidation, even though we're talking about something that essentially should be fun for everyone. How is it that something so childlike, pure, and fun as a bicycle has been tied up with all of these feelings of resentment, either towards shop employees or towards shop patrons? It's almost like there's this invisible divide between those who visit bike shops and those who work at bike shops, and there seems to be no clear way to meet in the middle. I've discussed this before talking to shop owners, how it's not in their best interest to have an air of elitism towards their customers. Today, I want to speak to you guys, the customers, and attempt to explain why you may feel at the butt end of an elitist mindset when you walk into bike shops. So I've put together 4 points that I hope makes it a little bit clearer in understanding why this dichotomy exists. The first thing to realize when you set foot in a bike shop, especially in the spring and in the summertime, is that the volume of work and the level of chaos that's going on behind the scenes is far greater than you imagine. Even if you stop in on a sleepy Tuesday afternoon where you're the only person in the store, it may feel like you're in this small mom and pop setting and you could burn 45 minutes of time just chatting with the owner. But the reality for shop owners in the spring and summer months is that for every hour they're open, they're likely working another hour or two after close. During peak season in a bike shop, there's likely on average 2 hours worth of labor coming in for every hour the shop is open. This is why you see backlogs and lead times going up to weeks or months. As shop owners, we really want to do our best to give everybody our undivided attention, but the reality of the situation in springtime is that the demand on bike shops becomes so outrageous in some cases that it is difficult to discern a customer's face from which bike they brought in. It's not something we do on purpose, it's just a matter of the volume of people coming in and trying our best to get through this mountain of work as quickly as possible without denigrating the quality of our service. Because of this, and because of the fact that we're all human, it's inevitable that employees of a bike shop may accidentally come off as if your time is not of interest to us. Take it from me, one of my favorite parts of owning a shop is sitting down and giving somebody my undivided attention. This is one of my favorite things about the winter months is that somebody can come in and we can just nerd out on bikes for an hour if they want. This will sound like a really harsh truth, but that same conversation that brightens my day during those winter months actually really effectively can drain me during the summer months. That's because that hour-long conversation during the summer directly represents an extra hour I'm gonna have to stay after, catching up on other tune-ups so that my wait times don't get into the months. Even if you're the only person in the store during the springtime, every shop owner has about 150 other customers in mind whose bike is either pending, whose email is either sitting in their inbox, or whose phone call they have not yet gotten back to. So I know it's tough because as a customer, you hope to go into your local bike shop and get that kind of family feel and specific connection. But the reality is in the spring and summer months, so many of us shop owners deal with so much volume that it's really hard to give that kind of attention to each and every person that walks in our doors. Now, you may say as a counterpoint to this, why don't you just hire more people? By the way, just a really quick note, if you're interested in drilling down further and figuring out how to either start or optimize your current bike business, we do have a tremendous amount of value behind our memberships. We're really proud of what we've packed in to something that we can essentially make available at a really accessible price point. It's essentially all of my hard-earned lessons over these past 10 years in business. You can check out the links below. And this brings me to my second point that I'd like to bring up, which is that bikes are immensely more complicated than the general public gives it credit for. It is unfortunately not that simple to just hire more staff so that we can handle the increases in volume. There is a whole myriad of complexities that come with hiring, from payroll and training, human resources problems, the fact that working on bicycles is effectively a trade skill. The reality is bike shops are classified as specialty retail, and for us to hire simply to deal with the larger volume is going to affect your experience very negatively in the store. Ask yourself this: would you rather wait in line to talk to the owner, or would you rather get an inexperienced opinion from somebody that just came in off the street in a complicated and seasonal business? The truth is, we're in a point where we can't make everybody 100% happy. You can't talk to the owner immediately during the springtime because they simply can't divide their attention amongst too many different areas at once. And they also can't hire somebody and quickly instill their year's worth of knowledge into that person to where they can effectively help you in the same manner. Even in the case that we do get highly skilled employees, we do have to deal with the seasonality component, and retaining those employees long-term is often a challenge in and of itself. Again, as shop owners, we want to provide you with the best service possible. And I know, speaking from my own experience, I will happily sacrifice some potential volume so that I can provide a very high quality service versus providing terrible service to a large volume of people. So because of this, patience really is key when you're going into the shop. I know that the springtime is when you're thinking about bikes and when you want to get out there, get the bike dusted off and tuned up after the winter and enjoy the sunshine. But just realize, and I don't mean to be too blunt in this statement, but you are not unique in that thought process. A very large swath of the population ends up flooding into bike shops simultaneously, and the spike in demand is very significant. The only true way around it is getting your bike tune-up done in the winter, but again, I get it. You're not thinking about cycling when it's 32 degrees and snowing outside. Most people wait for that first warm spring day and for the clocks to change, and then the floodgates open. Just remember that most bike shops, even if they have a larger staff, it's often a very limited number of those staff members that are higher in expertise to where they can either service your bike or answer your technical questions or both. Which gets me to my final point, which is that the people who are in the bike industry largely seeked out those jobs because they were interested in bicycles rather than being interested in customer service. This is not a defense of people in bike shops being snobby towards their customers, but it is at least an explanation for why most of the people that you come across in bike shops tend to be a little bit more gear-headed and may lack the soft skills that, if we're being honest, take years to develop. If you are really technically oriented and you're trained in what is essentially a trade skill, there is definitely an art form to distilling your knowledge down to simpler terms and then having repeated conversations on a daily basis while maintaining your patience and composure. Throw in the fact that when you deal with any large volume business, you're gonna get at least one or two bad eggs. And unfortunately, because again, we are human, that can sour our mood for the next customer that comes in who's otherwise perfectly pleasant. As humans, we're doing our best. A lot of these issues, unfortunately, are just par for the course when you have to deal with people in a really high volume setting. A lot of these same employees sat around twiddling their thumbs all winter, and so part of them probably is wondering why you waited until demand peaked to come in. And again, I don't say this as an attacking comment, I'm just being honest about some of the thoughts that do go through the minds of shop employees, especially during the high stress times during peak season. And on a final note, I will state for the record that a lot of shop owners and shop employees are actually snobby elitist assholes. But hopefully this video illustrates some of the reasons why some of those tendencies may come up and allow you to kind of differentiate between those who may actually adopt that type of attitude and those who are just acting under a lot of stress.